'cause I saw my doctor today, and he tells me I must go away for a little while. He just gave me a frown, said you have to leave town, for your nerves are run down. No fear, I'm not going to die, I just dropped in to say goodbye. So goodbye to the lights and the glorious night, it's the price I am paying for my cabareting, and the old doctor tells me my liver is queer. I must rest for a year, I have nervous prostration.
Hi everybody, I'm Jeff with Virginia Paranormal Investigations, and today we're up here at Brandywine Springs Amusement Park in Delaware, and this area is steeped in history. It was reported that Washington had an encampment around here back in the Revolutionary War, and in the early 1900s a renowned amusement park was built in this area, and it was called Brandywine Springs Amusement Park, and it was open, I believe it closed down in 1923. They had several rides and a boardwalk and a dance hall out on a lake, and it was a very beautiful amusement park, and people would come from all over to visit this park. This might have been the scene that you would have viewed as you came in the early days of the amusement park. As you came in on the train, when you come in over to the right, there was a B&O railroad pavilion, and then just beyond that is the entrance to the park. Now we're going to go through here and we're going to explore this and show you what it looks like today, show you some old pictures of it, and we're also going to do an investigation to see if we can pick up any activity here. Now, we haven't heard any reported hauntings associated with this park, but it's one of those lesser known parks. A lot of times, oftentimes, areas where there was a lot of emotion, whether it's happiness, whether it's sadness, no matter what, there are often spirits left behind, and you often hear of abandoned amusement parks where people pick up laughter or children talking and various music playing and such. So we're here to see if it is haunted, and we're going to go through and take a look at it right now. These four blue posts that we see out in the woods marked the four corners of the B&O Railroad Pavilion, which stood here from 1891 until 1918, and this would have been one of the first buildings in the amusement park. It stretched out 100 feet along the track by 50 feet deep. Now over here, just behind the Railroad Pavilion, we have an old foundation, which very well could have been the foundation for the trolley tracks, because I saw on the sign it said that the trolley ran behind the B&O Pavilion, which sits right over there along the train tracks, or used to sit over there. So here we are at the entrance to the amusement park, and these four white wooden posts behind me mark the exact location where this entrance stood from 1901 till around 1916 and 1918. And you can imagine that this was a beautiful entrance sign. I mean, it had several little lights on it, it was well illuminated, glowing through the night, and it welcomed all the visitors as they got off the train in the trolley and they came into the amusement park.
So the four yellow pillars that you see here mark the corners of the old exhibit hall. The exhibit hall was first built in 1891, and it had many uses over the years. One of those was as a dance hall, as a roller skating rink, even as a place for local merchants to display their wares. Now, in 1910, the walls of the exhibit hall were modified and opened up so that people could stand and look out and wait for the trolley and be out of the weather. So it was a 92 square foot building shown in the picture here.
And it looks like we can still see some remains here in the woods. I'm not sure if they're exactly from this exhibit hall,
Right.
or if they're from something else, but I mean, they're right in the area that it was. And you can see the little cement posts sticking out of the ground, almost in a perfect square.
Yes.
You can see them going back through the woods there.
They would be around the perimeter of the building. It looks like maybe they were used as foundation posts or something to support the walls, the exterior walls of the building.
So walking along here, it's a very nice little trail that winds through the woods along where the amusement park used to be, and some of the remains still are. And we're going to venture down here a little ways and see what other remnants we can find, still just sitting out there in the woods. So as you can see behind me in the woods here, they have a bunch of red posts, and the 4 taller red posts in the center marked what was the light lunch pavilion, and then there's 4 smaller posts or shorter posts around the outside that marked where the porch would have been outside of the pavilion. Now, sometime after 1906, this became the ladies' pavilion, i.e. the ladies' restroom. And over here on the sign, they have a really cool, I don't know if we're going to be able to find a reprint of this. It's a colorized postcard from 1912. And this shows some ladies in the old dresses of the time standing outside of the restroom. Really cool to see what it looked like back then, and now just the red posts that, you know, were put here, I believe around 2010, 2012, are all that is left to show us where it used to stand.
Here around us is the location of the Carousel. Now, it started out as a very small merry-go-round that was installed here in 1888, and it was replaced just 3 years later by a larger carousel. Now, the carousel was your typical carousel with rows of animals. Evidently, it was one of those that was beautifully carved. The 2 inside rows of animals moved up and down, and the outside row was stationary. Now, the outside row had the opportunity to play what they called the brass ring game. One person would stand outside the merry-go-round and would toss these brass rings to those who were riding on the outside row of animals, and whoever caught the brass ring would be given the opportunity to have another free ride on the carousel. At the time, it was a steam-powered machine, and it was replaced by electrical power in 1904. And then there was also a Caterpillar ride that was installed here in 1923, and it was one of those that had the metal arms that go out in all directions like the spokes of a wheel, and they hold cars, and the cars would ride along a track in this large concentric, you know, circle, this large area around here. Now, this was the park didn't ever open for the 1924 season, so the Caterpillar ride really only sat here for a year. They believe that it may have been moved to a nearby park and installed there.
Okay, so I'm thinking that this is the perfect place to set up. It's going to be hard to do an EVP session because there's a load of people. There's more people walking through here now than there was when it was an amusement park.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get some EMF readings just to set this out and see if anything happens with that. I'm also going to walk around the area and get some readings. But just for fun, we're going to try this app. We turned it on a little bit earlier, and I don't put a lot of stock in apps, okay?
Right.
But it was pretty cool. It said platform.
Yeah. Now, this is the ERS Paratech, is what it's called, that we're using here. A lot of people go crazy over this. Like you said, we don't really put a whole lot of stock in apps.
Started scanning.
But I started it just a few minutes ago for 1 second. It said platform, so, you know, sort of an applicable word. There. I mean, it sounded like it said booth. That word didn't pop up on here, but
Yeah.
it sounded like it said booth.
I say I don't know where that noise comes from though. I don't know if this noise that's coming through here is just like randomly
Right.
like noise or if it's actually supposed to be,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
It said
I don't know.
quiet.
Quiet. Okay, maybe it's trying to tell me something.
Yeah. Emulate.
Anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this voice recorder here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just gonna walk around and get just a brief reading of the
Some
area
readings.
with the EMF detector.
Quick. So it's bringing through a couple of words that, sounded like they may be applicable to the area and the hit and its history. Other things seem like they're kind of something that would just come through at any time.
I'm not getting anything unusual with the EMF detector. You know, I was thinking that maybe there'd be some residual energy left behind,
Yes.
but you know, especially at a place like this where there was electric rides and
Right.
you know, like I said, a lot of emotion, a lot of people, a lot of laughter, a lot of fun.
Right.
I would have thought maybe possibility that something would have got imprinted in the atmosphere, but as far as the EMF is saying, no.
Crate.
Crate.
Okay.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Maybe ghost can't spell.
Terry with a T-E-R-R-Y, but not capitalized like somebody's name. The number 1 just came through. Harper.
7.
We wrapped up pretty much what we're going to do here at this location, at where the old merry-go-round was. It's very difficult. Once again,
Right.
because of the voices and such, we can't really do a proper EVP session. There's so much contamination. There's so much you'd have to look out for
Yes.
in reviewing it. Any kid's voice you'd have to discount because there's so many kids in the background
Right.
here. And
Absolutely.
unfortunately, we can't come back here at night. But some interesting things. Like I said, we used that app, the Paratech app.
Yes.
And we don't, like I said, don't think that we go out on investigations like, oh, the app said this, it's definite. No,
Right.
no, I'm skeptical about the apps. And
Very, very skeptical.
I do like to point out the cool things that happen, though, be they coincidence or not.
Right.
It said Lily. Now, I
Yes.
don't know if anything about a Lily that's associated with this place. And it was probably
Yeah.
random, but it's kind of cool because Lily is like an old name.
It is kind
You know
of
what
an
I mean?
old-fashioned name. Yeah.
I
yeah.
could see one of these ladies in the white dresses that came through here with the big bonnets on and everything
Right.
being named Lily.
Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of cool.
Yeah, it was also kind of cool that they said things like platform and booth when we were here at the location. Those are things that you would normally associated with an amusement, with movies, things of that nature. So, and again, we are right near the exhibit hall, right near where there used to be Carousel. So, who knows?
Yeah, right now we're standing, like we'd be standing on the carousel.
Where
right
the
now.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
So cool stuff, and it's
Yeah.
neat to see this stuff still out here.
It
But
is.
we're gonna head on down the path and to the next attraction, whatever that may be, in this wonderful amusement park.
Mm-hmm.
And here on the other side of the stream is where the roller coaster and toboggan slide used to sit. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of information about that, at least not out here. As with a lot of the other locations, they had some historical markers and such that we could get some information off of.
Right, and it looks like there are other green posts that may have the names of the rides and things as we go down. So we'll go along and take a look at some of those and see what other kind of rides and amusements and attractions they may have had.
Right, and I see one right here that says hot dog stand. And I'll tell you what, I could go for a hot dog right now.
Yeah, I could do.
You know what I mean? And I smell somebody cooking out up the outside of the valley here. There's pavilions and everything up there, and it smells like someone's cooking some pretty good food right now. It's amazing how they label all this stuff. They knew exactly where it was, the shooting gallery.
Right.
And then as we're going up here, I see popcorn stand. What's on the far side? Bandstand. So it's pretty cool, and you can kind of visualize. I mean, it's hard, but you can only imagine what it may have looked like way back. So over on this site right here, there used to be an old restaurant in 1890, and it burned down 15 years later, and they rebuilt it. They opened up another restaurant. They served breakfast, lunch, dinner. Some of the stuff they served were omelets, ham and eggs, tenderloin steaks, chicken, pork chops, spaghetti, oysters, crabs. Man, this stuff's making me hungry. On the signpost here is pretty cool because they have a picture from 1910, and it shows some of the old scales out in front, the mutoscope viewers, which were coin operated, and flip card motion picture machines. So that's pretty cool. And right now it's just barren. Nature's come back, reclaimed it. One interesting note is one of the gentlemen who ran this restaurant, John Gavatos, I believe it's pronounced. He started a local chocolate candy store, and his grandchildren still operate that store today, about 100 years later.
This is the site of the Scenic Railway building. It was a fairly large building that housed a wooden roller coaster. Now, the roller coaster had one continuous track that supposedly took customers to Lake Washington and back, which I'm not exactly sure where that is.
That is right behind us there. If you look back in the distance there, the sun is going to kill us.
Okay.
But coming back over here, if you see behind Linda, there's that big mound going up there. That is the border of Lake Washington.
Oh, okay. Okay. It also included a number of tunnels. Inside each different tunnel, there were different scenes. One of them was a tropical jungle. They had a snowy Arctic scene with a wrecked ship in the ice. One that took you through a valley in the Swiss mountains. A southern scene with workers picking cotton and that sort of thing. Now, the Scenic Railway building originally started with a very plain front. I'm not sure how well you can see it because it's in the smaller photograph here on the bottom right there. And the building originally, the original building had burned in a fire, and so in 1905 it was replaced with a larger, much more grand building that is shown in the top picture here, but that is also a little bit covered over and is kind of hard to see.
And that's interesting. Did anybody die in the fire? Did it say?
It does not say anything about people dying in the fire, and I'm not sure if anybody did, if they would really tell us about that.
Right. But either way, nonetheless, I see a big, perhaps a portion of it. It says Chain Hill.
Right.
Motor mount. That must be the mount for the...
Right.
Okay. Self-explanatory.
Yes.
I think perhaps we could go over there and maybe see if we can pick anything up. I'm thinking that even if no one died in the fire,
right.
Once again, it's another place that was visited by a lot of people.
Yes.
You know, during its time as an amusement park for the 20 plus years, give or take,
right.
that it was here. Perhaps we can still pick up some lingering voices.
Could be, or some screams of people
right.
going around.
Or some crazy nonsense words on the app. Yeah, just wandering into the old location where this used to be. I see some other, I don't know if it's just a rock. Looks like cement. Another part of a foundation perhaps over here. Right. As well as this one right here where perhaps we can set up. We got some unidentified, at least to us, parts of metal sticking up out of the ground here, over by where the rail mount was. They don't look exactly like rails, but you never know.
No, but they do look like perhaps the corner support beams for some sort of a structure, a platform, maybe even having the motor mount encased, like walled in, you know. They do look like corner posts because there's one there, one there. I would suspect that there may be one back here and another one to match it up here, although we don't see those on that far side.
Okay, so we're going to set up the recorder, and I don't know if we're going to have a whole lot of luck with some of the people around. We do have to keep that in mind. It's going to be tough to decipher and tough to actually count something because of this contamination.
Right.
But we're going to try. I'm Jeff.
I'm Linda.
And we don't mean to be here unwanted by any means. We would like to know if there's anybody still here with us. If you could talk loud and clear to us and tell us your name, we'd love to find out some information about you.
Did you used to work here?
We heard there was a fire here. Did anybody get hurt in the fire?
We also heard there was a very cool, very nice ride here. Did you ride this ride as a customer? Or did you perhaps operate the ride?
Can you tell us what year it is?
Did you live nearby?
So we're going to head out of here. Once again, an EVP session. I'm not sure how successful. There are voices and such in the background. Good questions though, especially the last one that Linda asked. Remember the last question you asked?
Was it, did you live in this area?
Yes. I honestly forgot the question for a second between the time we stopped recording and started recording again, so that's why I asked her if she remembered. But that's a good question, because not only could a spirit that may be lingering here been a visitor to the amusement park, but as you can see, the valley around us is lined with houses. Perhaps a wandering spirit could have made its way down here, and we could be talking to something. If we are talking to something, we could be talking to something that is not even from that time frame or from the amusement park, but still wandered down here and has given us replies. So, good question. But we're going to go on down here to the next location, and we're coming up on Lake Washington, which I believe this was like the jewel of the park. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about that when we get there. So these old concrete blocks that are here at this location are from the Katzenjammer, probably mispronounced, but it looked like this was an awesome place, and I think that this was here. It was basically a fun house, and before it was the Katzenjammer, once again probably mispronounced, it was basically an Egyptian labyrinth fun house where they would go in, and this was from 1903 to 1905, and they would go inside and there would be pictures of sphinxes and pyramids and Cleopatra and all that, and they'd go through this maze, this dark maze, and then they'd come to a room that had all these crazy mirrors that would make you look short and fat and tall and wide, and there was this one mirror that would spin around, and kids would go crazy in there, but it caught fire. And in 1906, the Katzenjammer sprung up here, was rebuilt, and that's what the foundation that we just saw is from. And this sounded like it was a pretty cool place. It had these slides in it where kids could sit on the carpet and kind of go down like a funnel type slide, is what I got out of reading the picture that was up here. Now, there was another thing in the Katzenjammer that they would get on, and it was basically like a roulette wheel, and all the kids would get on it, and it would spin, and it would go faster and faster and faster until everyone flew off it in different directions. I'm assuming there was some kind of padding on the sides of it or on the walls. I don't know. I would hope so. But around 1912, I believe it was, 1911, 1912, it was renamed the Dreamland after a fun house in Coney Island, New York. So once again, a cool place, and it's nice that so much of the structure is still here. And I'd really like to go in here and poke around a little bit, maybe get some EMF readings and see if there's anything that may still be lingering. Such a fun place, and like I said, I don't know if anybody was hurt in the fire, but still a question to ask perhaps during an EVP session. So let's wander down into the Katzen Jammer and check it out. So this is pretty cool that this old foundation is still here after over 110 years.
Yes.
You know, that I found that amazing. And of course there's a lot of older structures, but a lot of them are well preserved. I mean, this is just kind of sitting out here in the woods, you know, left alone, forgotten, overgrown. Okay, so we're walking around inside the Katzenjammer, and watch your footing here. There's a lot of old bricks and stuff laying around. And we're just getting some baseline EMF readings, see if there's anything weird, anything here that shouldn't be, or anything here naturally. A lot of times, like I said, there are natural explanations for the EMF. There's a lot of houses nearby and such, but nonetheless. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and try a spirit box session here. We haven't tried that yet. See if we can pick up anything. I'm Jeff.
I'm Linda.
And we'd like to know if there is anybody here with us. Can you tell us your name?
Heard a few things in there that could have been interpreted as names.
Yeah, but once again, of course, we don't know if it's, you know, radio chatter, unless it's something that we can directly tie in to the location.
Yes.
What are you doing here? Can you tell us the name of this ride? Can you tell us the name of the park? How did you get here?
Do you know if anyone has ever drowned in the lake?
So right here we have a pretty cool thing. This is the site of the Carousel Springs, and these were springs that were here that were believed to have healing powers, and the Native Americans way back in the mid-1800s passed this secret on to the white men, and a hotel sprung up atop the hill, and people traveled from all over to come and drink from these springs. And the hotel and the story behind that's something for perhaps another episode. But just a cool little side note to point out, and also that the thing was, there was a local legend that this was the site of an old Indian grave, but it wasn't. It was the site of the springs. So, pretty cool. We're standing here at Lake Washington. This is what it was known as back in the early 1900s. It was a man-made lake built in 1896, and this is what I was talking about. I think this was like the jewel of the amusement park, because when this man-made lake was built, it had some islands in it. Some of them are still visible. You can still see some of them sticking up towards the back there. But what used to be right where these white posts are out here was this huge dance hall. And this huge dance pavilion with like a bridge going out to it. People could also rent boats. They had boat rentals here. a huge bridge that went across it with three little, not really pavilions, but three little posts with flags sticking out of the top of them, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful place. And it was drained sometime in the late 40s, the late 1940s. The lake was drained, and I gotta say, when I was younger, I used to go up to this park, and this was all dried up. So they have recently been doing work to restore this, to refill the lake. I remember the dam across the way there was broken, so they've built it back up, and it's awesome that they're doing that they're taking the time to do that. But it's amazing to sit here and look at it and see where there was once this beautiful pavilion, and you can see it looks like there's maybe some willow trees in the background, and it was just beautiful. And now it's just old trees and tangled vines just growing out of the water, almost like a swamp, for lack of better words. So up here on the hill, they have a picture, which you can't really see too well because it's pretty scraped up, of Washington Lake around 1902. And it's taken from this exact spot. You can see the lake down there with the man-made islands that were added. It wasn't until 1911 when they added the islands and the dance hall. And over in the right here is Newport Gap Pike. And what's cool is in the picture, you can see that there are some horses and buggies parked right along George Washington Lake there, or Washington Lake. And there are no homes up in the hills where the cedars are now. And as you look out here, you can see off in the distance all the houses that have been built in the last 100 and some odd years. Over here we have what remains of Council Oak. And Council Oak tree was a huge oak tree that sat up here on the hill overlooking the lake, which of course wasn't made until years later. But during the Revolutionary War, George Washington met with his troops by this huge tree, and that's why they call it the Council Oak tree. So just to give you an idea of the size of this oak tree, here it is laying on its side, and I'm standing next to it. It's a pretty big oak tree, and it's crazy because I remember when this tree was still standing. I don't believe it was still alive at the time, still growing, but the trunk was still standing. And I remember coming out here and seeing it, and hearing the stories about George Washington and his troops meeting near it. It's sad to see it, you know, laying on its side now, just kind of wasting away. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Brandywine Springs Amusement Park, right here in Wilmington, Delaware, near Wilmington, Delaware. And it's amazing, I have to say, to be able to walk these trails and see what once was and see what now is. And the woods, the nature has just come back and pretty much consumed everything for a few scraps of what was here. And it's sad because, you know, you walk down here now, it's just woods. And it's sad, you know, that all that laughter and all that fun that took place down here is no longer had.
Right.
You know, bigger amusement parks sprung up. The automobile became more common.
Yes.
And people stopped coming to the local amusement parks and traveling to the bigger ones.
Right, right.
You know, as that became more affordable. So, you know, it kind of faded out, and it's sad to see it gone. But I do have to say, what I am impressed by is I've been coming back here since I was a kid. And this amusement park, when I used to come back here, it was still not really uncovered as much as it is now. There were a couple, I remember before they put these signs up, and you come back and there were a few foundations. A lot of them were overgrown, they weren't uncovered like they are now. And you kind of wondered, what was here? What did this look like? We knew it was an amusement park, but it's so cool how they've taken the time to uncover some of this stuff, to begin to restore the lake, to put posts out that mark where everything was along the way. And it can kind of help you to graphically visualize it as you're walking along and kind of see the layout of where things were.
Right, right. Um, yeah, that's absolutely true. It is very sad that there is really not a whole lot that remains. But of course, you see some of the big chunks of concrete. It's obvious that these are cut stones. That they're have angles and they have that geometry that just tells you, okay, this is just some random piece of concrete that's still remaining out here. And it really makes me wonder what else may remain out here. Like Jeff had said before, places with a lot of emotion, whether it be good emotion or bad emotion, they tend to attract spirits, and that energy tends to kind of linger behind. So, I'll be interested to kind of see what we may have.
Absolutely. Good energy, bad energy, it all,
Right.
is believed to be able to linger behind. So,
Yes.
it is going to be a little difficult. As we mentioned, there's a lot of people here.
Right.
There's probably as
A
many
lot
people
of
here
people.
now. That's one cool thing. I mean, to an extent, unless you're trying to do an investigation, because it's kind of weird
Yeah.
when we're sitting there and we're talking to nobody except for, recorder, and people are walking by kind of like,
Looking at you, trying to figure out what you're doing. But then that's
and
kind
they
of our
stand there
life.
and they do that. So if you could have
Yeah.
seen behind the scenes while we're doing the EVP session and such,
Yeah.
we got like a crowd of people standing there, and then someone's like, "That's VAPI," and then someone else like, "Yeah," and then they all come. No, that part didn't happen, but the
No, that
staring,
didn't happen.
the staring definitely did happen.
Right. Yeah.
Which is awkward, but it's fun at the same time because we get to look like, idiots.
Yeah, and plus we have these little machines in our hands that are making noise. The spirit box, the paratech, we have all kinds of things that make noise, and so people see us doing something, they hear the noise coming out of there, they're probably wondering if we're doing something nefarious and just kind of curious about what's going on. So, but it is really irritating. It's such a beautiful day out here, and so many people are out here taking advantage of it. I told Jeff perhaps what we need to do is come back on the day that is really, shitty weather, just really terrible weather, because nobody else is going to be here but us. So then we might be able to catch some EVPs. We might be able to do some things that we couldn't normally do on such a beautiful day. So that may be an option for the future as well.
It is. And you may wonder too, like I said, just to answer some questions, how are they going to use these EVPs? Well, we're really not. We're going to listen to them.
Right.
But, I mean, we have to have something that we did not hear while we're here. Now, we know there's voices in the background. We know there's kids. So if we hear laughter, we hear kids. All right, there were kids there. We got to chalk it up to that.
Right.
It's if we get a name.
A name,
a name, a voice that sounds like it's right there, giving us a name or something definite that we can tie into this place.
Yeah.
That we definitely did not hear as we were here. When you're doing an EVP session, the recorder is going to pick up a lot more than your ears may, and especially if you amplify the sound. So listening to it on normal sound, if you hear a voice that sounds like it's right there, and you didn't hear it while you were sitting there, that's something.
Yeah, and it
you know
says,
what I mean?
"Hey,
Now,
kid, you want some candy?"
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
And if you have to zoom in and amplify that sound,
Right.
and then you hear that voice, that could have very well been anyone throughout the woods.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's tough. But
It
we
is.
wanted to do it. We wanted to come down here. We played around with some apps. We like to experiment. We like to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely, it's worth it.
But
To come down.
thank you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Jeff,
And I'm Linda.
and you're going to walk that way, and I'm going to walk this way.
Okay.
Ming a toy, long the boy, happy little Japanese. Too long was his name, set her heart aflame. One day he said, soon I gotta go away. When he leave, Ming toy grieve, everybody hear her say, so long, how long you gonna be gone? Your little Japanese will be waiting underneath some bamboo tree, so don't be too long, how long while you're away, waiting for the day when you'll come back.